What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Roundtable. I'm Pastor Colby, joined here today by Pastor Johnny from Calvert, Pastor Aaron, and Pastor Robert. And today's topic that we're diving into is one that's really relevant to the times that we're in right now with this whole coronavirus, quarantining, everybody's having to slow things down. But for us, being all driven people, one of the hardest things to do for a driven person is to slow down and find rest. And so today's topic is all about finding rest in a hustle culture. So Pastor Robert, why don't you get us started? What is a way that you find rest just in your daily or normal routine?
Yeah, so usually for me, like I'll read, well, I listen to books more so than read them. Audible is like, I should have bought stock on Audible before I signed up. So for me, that's something that tends to help just kind of, I would say, like productive rest. So it helps me kind of shut down and not be stressed out from work, but also I'm learning in a way that will help me long term. And so that's a big one. If it's not like, if I'm not trying to be productive, but I want to rest, we'll go fishing or, things like that. And then football, man.
Biggest fish you've ever caught?
Oh, good night. I'm not that good at fishing. Yeah. I'm not that good at fishing, but I don't know, man. I caught like a barracuda once. I was like, you can't eat them though.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. Like they got like some weird bacteria in their gut. You can't eat them. So
that's gross.
Yeah.
I've been struggling with honestly, just to be straight up, like, because I would read. That was my thing. Like I would read, and I enjoyed reading. But I've been in school, so it's like I'm working all day at the church.
You don't want to read
thinking about God and spiritual things, and then I go home and I have to do homework. It's more work, really, because it's all the same stuff. And then I'm just completely gassed. Mm-hmm. So I can't read for fun, and I haven't been able to. So I've been trying to figure it out. I like to work out, so that's kind of my thing, but that's 45 minutes. Yeah. So I don't know, dude. Netflix binges, it's not the best.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's kind of the thing. So
that's the thing I've been kind of defaulting to, unfortunately.
And YouTube.
Yeah.
I've gone down some ridiculous rabbit trails in YouTube's.
There's some good shows out there right now that I've discovered and have been binging on, but I used to be a really heavy reader, and I'm probably down from, I don't know, probably do 50 a year. I don't think I was ever at 75 to 100, but unless they were like kids' books. But I'll probably do 2 a month, so maybe 25 a year. And puzzles, and I'm trying not to bury my head in my phone or in the TV, but it's hard as all get out when you're tired and you just don't want to, you just want to check out. That's the easiest thing to do. What about you, Pastor Aaron?
Rest is not always idleness. I find rest in doing things that I enjoy, things that relax me. Talk about wanting to do things. I'm from a family that used to take vacations together and build garages, finish attics and basements, put on sun porches and things like that. And so for me, projecting is really relaxing if it's something I enjoy doing and get something done. So for me, it's not just idleness, and yet there is time to do that, to relax. As a young pastor, I prided myself in working 7 days a week. Man, I was getting it done. But I found very early on that I got a lot more done in 6 days if I rested one day. Did things that I enjoyed, rested my mind, my body, my soul. Yeah. And the Bible speaks a lot about resting, the rest of spirit, the rest of soul.
Yeah, I was going to say that principle of doing your work in 6 days and resting. I've heard it somewhere. I can't remember where I read it. But yeah, it's something that we're all supposed to be doing, but it just seems like it's always something that escapes us.
Honestly, you need those 2 days. You need 2 days, dude, because that one day becomes errands and doctor's appointments and everything else. Then it's not a day of rest, really. So for me, I need 2 days.
Yeah.
I need 1 day of whatever, and then the other day of everything that needs to get done.
Wait till you have a kid. Never had any
I didn't want to say it, but I was like,
I'm like barely a year into this stuff, and that day of whatever it's not a thing.
yeah. It's do any of you guys ever feel as a husband, as a father, as a pastor, ever feel guilt when you actually do slow down and take some rest? I'll just say I've experienced this. I don't want to put that on anybody else, but there have been times, seasons of my life when I've been extremely hard charging. And I look at myself now and I go, I don't even recognize myself nowadays, because I am able to rest more and just kind of be okay with it and not really care what anybody else thinks. But there were times when I would take rest and I'd feel extremely guilty about it, because I'm like, no, there's so many things that I know that need to get done. There's so many things that I could be doing with my time, but I'm choosing, this feels selfish. Has anybody else ever been there?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's more, I used to be so, like, before I got into working at church and stuff, I used to just have so much of that downtime. It felt like, where I would just kind of do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and life was so slow. But then, since starting at the church, it's completely flipped, and I can't go back. Like, I try to in my mind, and I try to, like, okay, I need this amount of time to just chill or whatever, and I'll try, but then I'll be like, after 5 minutes, like, I gotta get up and move around. Like, you could ask Hannah. She's like, you can't sit still. Like, you have to always be doing something. And it's like, that makes me feel bad. Because it's like, man, I need to be able to disconnect. So that's been something I've been trying to get better at this past 6 months, and I think I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So
Your wife will keep you honest.
Different people, I think, they relax in different ways. Like, say, my wife likes to just sit and read and be still. And we've taken advantage of that, and the fact that when I'm exercising now, a lot of times she'll be reading. And that satisfies both of us. But I relax in different ways. I think to focus. For me, planning. If I plan a day that's crazy, I'm setting myself up for just stress and things like that. But if I'll plan my day and try not to put too much in it, I find that is very helpful and helps me rest, helps me be able to take the day in stride. I think that has come, though, from experience and from slowing down as you get older. You slow down a little bit, and you learn to pace yourself, and that's been helpful for me.
I feel guilty. Period. Like, if I'm not, so like, if it's time to be at work and I'm not at work, then I feel bad about it. Like, even if, like, there's days I come in late intentionally because I don't have anything in the morning and I need to chill out, I still walk in feeling guilty, you know? And then, like, if I'm supposed to be at home doing something and I'm not doing, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I feel guilty. Like, you know, if you were to walk around and, like, follow me around for a day with a camera or something, like, you'd hear me apologize more than, like, it'd be insane because, like, especially when it comes to, like, my wife, because I feel guilty if I'm not there when she wants me to be there or anything. And she doesn't even have to, like, she doesn't even have to react negatively. I still feel like, well, I should have done that, you know? And so, yeah, man, I feel guilty about that stuff all the time.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I was putting myself out there, like, but I feel this way a lot.
Yeah,
so.
It sucks, man. Like, it's just not, I don't know, that you don't really rest that way. You don't really recover that way, and it's not healthy. But I don't know, it just is what it is right now, I guess.
What's something that you're doing to maybe try and overcome that, to get through the guilt and the selfishness?
Okay, so let's see. One of the things, like, for me is, like, there's a lot of times I used to try to go to the gym in the evening. So two things happen with that. Number one, I'm by myself and I'm tired. So like, you know, I'll roll up in there, pick up some heavy things, put them down. I'm not losing any weight doing that, but, like, you know, I'm still strong. So, like, right. And then I'm just kind of slacking. So we started going to the gym in the middle of the day, and then I just started taking Dave with me. So, we can feel guilty together. And
it's accountability, though.
Yeah. And so that helps. That's actually super, like, restorative and restful. So that's good. Theo goes too, and he's a sleeper. Dude's strong as crap, and he never worked out before, so that's crazy. I mean, just push-ups and stuff. But anyway, so and then man, things to get over that. I mean, that's really the biggest thing that kind of helps go past that. You have accountability, but also if you know, like when you're a kid and you're doing mischievous stuff, if you do it with other people, it kind of doesn't feel as bad. It's kind of like that, you know.
Yeah. At least the working out is something productive.
Yeah.
Like it's restorative, but it's also something that's producing something.
Yes.
So you feel less guilty about it, you know, regardless of what time of day it is.
Well, it also stops. I think something with like rest for people that feel guilty, that's a problem, is the guilt snowballs. So you're like, I need to do something this morning because, you know, and then you miss that thing that morning.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I'm not going to get to do it throughout the day. Then something else happens. And then by the time you get to the evening, maybe you try to go back and do the thing that you're going to. For me, that's the gym, right? But for some people, maybe it's going to run, maybe it's reading, maybe it's whatever. But if you miss it in the morning, it snowballs all the way throughout the day to the point that you get to the end of the day and you're looking at it going, I either don't do it and feel like crap about it, or I do it and then feel like crap because I missed time with my family.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's the balancing act that we all have to do. It's kind of like, okay, well, let me weigh my options here. I could do this that would be beneficial to me, that maybe it would be restful, but then I also have these other responsibilities and obligations and things I need to be mindful of. So which is which? Pastor Aaron, you said something a minute ago about pace. Pacing yourself. And for all of us that are in ministry, I know I've heard this several times that it's not about a momentary achievement or success, but it's about in ministry longevity. And what's a pace that you've kept, or what's something that you've done to maintain your career in ministry, to have that longevity?
I know it sounds super spiritual, and I don't mean it that way, and I'm not. Anybody knows me. But again, prioritizing, getting things in right. When I have done this, go a day or two without reading or really praying intentionally, setting aside that quiet time. My days will start getting hectic. I will make mistakes, and I really begin to get off track. And the Lord will remind me, well, Aaron, when's the last time you read? When's the last time you've really been with me? And I said, Lord, I'm so sorry. And I will get back and get it right. Hey, I walk this parking lot, and that's my rest, man. I'm walking here. That's wonderful for me, and helps me to be able to pace. Hey, time with my wife, just time spending with her. That's fun for me, and we're not always just doing things out in the yard, doing things together. When our kids were young, like your little daughter, man, that is just spending time with them. And I love watching you, this big old guy. Hey, you turn into a marshmallow when that little girl's on your shoulder. And it's great, and that's rest. And
there's a generational difference. I don't know if it's a bias or what, but for some reason, for me personally, as hard as I work and the people my age work, I look back to your generation and I go, I just don't think we'll ever measure up. It just seems
You
like.
will.
Yeah, because you don't know how to build a house, and he did when he was like 12.
In my spare time, we build garages. In
Okay,
some
so
ways.
for real, I wanted to say this earlier. You've never, so you used to mud houses in college, right? You do drywall, yeah. So seriously, a few years ago, we're working down in Hughesville or something on a house for a little missions project. Pastor Aaron comes in. He's on these 18-inch stilts, and the man's just mudding the crap out of dry. He mudded the whole house. Everybody had to get out of his way. Faster than everybody still.
Yeah, it's something, man. I talk about my grandfather all the time, but it's just, that was my example of somebody from that generation, that they can just work circles around you. And it's just like, man, I don't think I'll ever be able to catch
and our work
up.
was different. You guys, the technology today, I can't do hardly anything on my. You know that I've come to you in the last couple of days. I just get stumped every minute.
Me too,
But
though.
I think
I just do.
I love New Life though. When I get on that, when I came here and stayed on as long as I have, I said I'm going to try to stay up the best I can with this, because if I'm going to be, I need to be on it. I need to be up on it. And you guys, if I get a glitch, I just go to you guys and you help me out, and with a smile on your face, and that is so neat to be able to do that. And so you have different skills. You're working in different things than we did.
Yeah.
But you'll get there.
Our things just do everything for us. Though.
Yeah,
We don't even have
that's
to
the
research
thing.
things anymore.
Yeah.
Google.
Digital versus the analog world.
Wikipedia.
They're totally different, you know. What about you, Johnny? What's kind of a pace that you're trying to establish for yourself so that you can have a long-lasting career?
I think like I read this book that I loved this year, actually, and I don't know how I found the time to read it because of school, but I think I had it on Audible, so I started doing Audible because I couldn't read, because it would drive me crazy.
When did you learn how to read?
Not that long ago.
Okay, cool.
So Audible is easier for me.
I appreciate your transparency.
But then the problem is I can't reread. I can't I can't rewind and re-listen. So I process things slowly. But so I put it on Audible so I stopped wanting to listen to music, because I've always been so into music, and that was something for me. Like I'd listen to music, but like something happened where it was like I just don't care about music. Maybe it's because it's all, I don't know, crap now, or that's how it seems.
How old
But
are you?
I'm 27.
So thought you were Pastor Aaron's age.
Listen to a lot of jazz though. But
He's whippersnappers.
I listen to jazz when I work out.
They're
so-
hibbity hop.
I still like the
I'm weird.
Gaither, so you
But-
generational here.
But anyway, so I got it on Audible.
Indiana's own.
And I would listen to it while I would drive. And like one of the things, I feel like I'm losing my train of thought. What did you ask me?
Something you're doing to maintain longevity.
In the book, he talks about pace, and he talks about like we get fixated on goals. And it's a book by Jeff Bethke, and we get fixated on I need to achieve this goal and like hit these goals, right? And that could be something like I need to wake up every morning and I need to run a mile, and I need to do that, 5 days a week. But then you miss that because you oversleep, and then immediately you're like, man, I missed my goal, and then you dwell on that for the whole day, and you feel terrible about yourself, and it wrecks your whole day. But he talks about instead of being a person that's goal driven, what if we're a person that's pace driven, and we don't set it to where we're like, I have to hit this goal. I have to be a person that runs 5 times a week. What if I am a person that runs, and having that mindset, so that it's not so much, okay, if I don't do it this way exactly, I'm unsuccessful. But if I find the time, if I create the space to where I can just be this person, where I can be a person that enjoys running instead of I have to be a person that runs 5 times a week. So for me, I'm trying to do that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm trying to do that in my life. Where, because it used to really bother me if I missed a workout or if I missed, something like that. But now I'm just trying to make it where I'm just a person that this is just who I am. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And it's not so much how or when or where, but I'm going to do it when I can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to make that space to do it, because I think, especially today, like our schedules get so jam-packed with stuff that we just don't have space. Like we don't have buffer space to go out to coffee with somebody, even though like that's our job. We're supposed to like sit with people.
Yeah.
But it feels like a burden almost when somebody's like, "Hey, I need you." It's like, like man, like I've gotta sit with that person at 3, or I've got to do this at, and it's like, but it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Like we should have that space built in to where we can be inconvenienced.
Yeah, and then when you do actually sit down with them, you have to train yourself to slow your mind down, to not be thinking about the next thing.
Gosh.
Of like, this has to be a 20-minute.
Yeah, and not looking at your phone. You have to practice that being present in the moment.
Yeah.
Other than always thinking about the next thing and all of the goals and the time checklist and all that sort of stuff. But Pastor Michael Todd I don't know if you guys have heard of him, Transformation Church. He said something. He was down in Miami at VU Church, which is like the most millennial cool hipster name for a church, VU. He was teaching their staff, and he said, for every person, God has given a grace for the pace that they are in. And basically, what happens is we're all built different and made different, and we can start to run together. And I'm not built like Robert, and so I probably can't maintain the pace that Robert is able to go through tasks.
Yeah.
But if I just compare myself, I'll always be going, man, I'm always a step behind. But if I'm focused on, well, God, how have you graced me, and what pace am I supposed to be in and set? Then it lowers the expectations that I put on myself that are undue.
That's great.
And I can move at my own speed and not feel guilty or shamed when I start to compare myself to other people.
That's huge, man.
Yeah.
It is.
I think a lot of people go through like their careers wishing they were somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and like
Absolutely.
that's not a ministry thing, that's a human thing. A lot of people go through their careers wishing they could be like somebody else. And if they just take a step back and be like, man, like this is who I am. Like some people need more rest. You know, we're talking about pace of life and everything. Like there's some people who are absolutely highly productive, but if you ask them to do something when they're done, they can't.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that can always go back down in the bottom of the well and find more and do whatever whenever. You know, it just is what it is. You are who you are. And if you're right, you spend your whole life wishing you were somebody else or wishing you had somebody else's pace or whatever, like you never become who you're supposed to be.
Well, I think some people don't know who they are.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
is why I love in the counseling to do the temperament profile with people. I was in my 40s before I first took one, and it really liberated me. Robert, I didn't know who I was. And when this is how God made me, boy, that just helped me say, okay, I can be this. You know, Paul said, be all things to all men, and I took that seriously. Well, I'm not all things to all men. And when I began to realize who I was and how God made me, that helped me to relax and just, okay, thank you, Jesus. Help me to be the best me I can be and do that.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of. I've never done the Enneagram. I don't know if any of you guys have done it, but that's kind of a popular tool right now.
It is.
But I've before I was in ministry, I was in government, and we used the DISC profile, and it's a tool we use in Growth Track too. And we use an abbreviated version, but there's a more robust version of it that really goes in depth. And at the last place that I worked, we did this for the entire staff. Everybody went through it, and we all got these little jars of paint. So red was disc, I was yellow, red was D, I was yellow, and so on. And we could all visually see what each other were. But the interesting part about it was it helped to inform each of us of, oh, that's why so-and-so is kind of the way they are. That's why I get frustrated when I'm in this situation or when I have to work with this person. And when you really do get to know who you are, it kind of lets you know, like, okay, these are the realistic expectations that I can set for myself and the pace. And this is why I need to rest when I do, or after I do a certain thing, I crash, you know. So it's really about getting to know yourself, so that you can know what you are capable of. One of my to bring this to Bible before we wrap up. Psalm 23. Everybody knows Psalm 23. It's one of my favorite, passages of Scripture. But David talks about the language that he uses in especially in the older version, New King James. He says, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. And I always think about every time I've headed for a crash in ministry, it was because I was working outside of the pace that I was graced for. And all of us have probably, we could share some stories about how God has made us lie down
right.
in times when we didn't, want to. And he leads us beside, still waters. Well, I love being next to the ocean and hearing that, hearing that
right.
sound, feeling that breeze. And then in those places, it says once we get there, that's when he restores us. That's when our soul can be, restored by him. And we're in this quarantine time. We're in COVID-19 apocalypse 2020, whatever you want to call it. But many folks that are watching, you guys are at home, and you're in a place where it's kind of Psalm 23 right now.
So rest.
God's making us lie down, take a rest. And listen, it doesn't matter what it is that you decide to do. Just be sure that you're taking this time to find out what restores you, what's restful and helpful for you. Because I would hate at the end of this, if we've had all of this time to rest and could have taken advantage of it, that we're all too tired once our normal routine kicks back in, and we look back on a period that we missed out on what could have been a restful season.
That's right.
So that's going to be it for us for this episode of the Roundtable. There's plenty more great topics that we're going to talk about in the weeks to come. We hope you guys continue to tune in, like, share, subscribe, share this out, comment in the section below, and we'll see you next time.